The Mr.Bones Show.
When it comes to cult classic video games, there is no company better for that title than LucasArts. LucasArts is best known for their, overabundance of Star Wars games, but also their amazing catalog of point-and-click adventures. Point-and-click adventures are essentially titles in which you would play as a character as they go on this amazing quest, clicking around and solving puzzles. That's some of the reasons why people love those games so much. Games like Zack McCracken, Day of the Tentacle, Maniac Mansion, and even Adventures of Monkey Island are some of the main reasons why people love LucasArts. But if there's one game that I would define LucasArts as a whole, as far as the point-and-click genre goes, it's a little game called Sam & Max Hit the Road. Sam & Max, created by Steve Purcell in the late 80s, is a dog and rabbit detective duo, Sam being the cool and collective detective he is, while Max is his quirky but psychotic counterpart. Sam & Max solve the strangest mysteries as the Freelance Police. From stopping a Filipino cult to saving a Bigfoot frozen in ice, Sam & Max are best known by getting cases by their faceless commissioner. Sam & Max is a series that is very strange and started out as a comic, but they wouldn't get their big break until 1993 when LucasArts developed Sam & Max Hit the Road. It was a fun little game, and while I definitely think it defines the point-and-click genre as a whole, it actually never got a sequel developed by LucasArts. There were plans for a Sam & Max title called Sam & Max Plunge Through Space that was going to be developed by a separate company, but it wasn't necessarily going to be a point-and-click adventure. It was going to be more of a quote-unquote 3D adventure title, where you would play as Sam and solve various puzzles throughout space and time. But what if I did tell you that there actually was a sequel developed by LucasArts that was going to follow up Hit the Road, and it was a little title called Sam & Max Freelance Police, a game that was supposed to be released in spring of 2004, but never saw the light of day. But why is that? What happened? Well, what if I told you during my research of this title, which I was going to discuss in Lost Media Limbo Volume 5, it led me down such a long rabbit hole that I honestly didn't think I was going to get myself out of. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself as I tell you the strange, twisted, turbulent tale of Sam & Max Freelance Police. Before this video starts, I just want to thank I don't know how to put it, but the Sam & Max 2 manifesto that I found after researching this topic. It's where I literally got all of my information and research for this video, so I'm not going to cover everything, I'm just going to cover the big parts. But if you do want to learn more about Sam & Max 2, if you want to learn everything there is to know about it, then I suggest you check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. Seriously, you should read it, it's really good. It definitely captures everything that happened during Sam & Max Freelance Police's development. Before we can talk about the detective dynamic duo, we're going to have to talk about LucasArts first, as their internal struggles are very prominent in Sam & Max's cancellation. Like I've said before, LucasArts is best known for their point-and-click adventures and their Star Wars games. I feel like their legacy builds up to pretty much just that. They are the definition of a cult classic company. As you all know, LucasArts went defunct, and eventually some of the people working at LucasArts would eventually create Telltale Games, which, as you know, created Sam & Max Seasons 1, 2, 3, the Batman games, The Walking Dead, Poker Night, I think, I can't remember, and Bone. You guys remember that shit? It's a good comic book, actually. You should go read it. But anyway, what does this have to do with our favorite dynamic duo? Well, as it turns out, as many would like to believe, LucasArts didn't actually make a lot of Star Wars games back in the day. They usually would give the license to other developers, and they would simply publish it. But as presidents came and went, and higher-ups came and went, eventually the decision of pushing all of the original projects aside to work on new Star Wars games became more and more prominent. This definitely became noticeable when the prequel series came out, and they wanted to market the shit out of it. LucasArts representatives have stated that they've made more money off of Star Wars pajamas than they have any of their original IPs combined, which I feel like that's a little exaggerated, but at the same time, who knows. This is also one of the main reasons why LucasArts people got so pissed off and ended up leaving. People like Tim Schafer. Tim Schafer is best known for Psychonauts, but, fun fact, he also wrote the story for Day of the Tentacle and Grim Fandango. I believe he was a lead developer on both of them, actually. I bring both of those up all the time because they're both really good, and you should go play them. But where am I going with this? As it turns out, after Sam and Max Plunged Through Space ended up getting the plug pulled on it, and Infinite Machine, the developers behind Plunged Through Space, went bankrupt, that gave LucasArts the opportunity to buy back the rights to Sam and Max to work on a proper sequel and follow-up to hit the road. Unlike this 3D adventure game-esque thing that Plunged Through Space was going to be, Freelance Police, the new project that was in development, was going to be a lot more like Hit the Road. The game was announced in E3 of 2003, in which they showed us a test animation of what could have potentially been the game.
In a world where evil lurks around every corner, where villains rule the streets with impunity, and hope is a four-letter word, a mighty force for justice will return. And heaven help the guilty.
You crack me up, little buddy. Commissioner, how's the rash?
Why won't you just die? This is so degrading.
Shut up and dance. Holy bouncing Buddha, Max. We're in 3D.
It's been done.
It hyped a lot of people up and got people really excited. This animation, or trailer I suppose, was not final at all and wouldn't represent what the game eventually would become. But it was good to know that they made this to show people that the game was in development. And apparently, according to Mike Stemmel, the project lead of the game, the project's development was going along smoothly. In fact, he considered it one of the smoothest development cycles he'd ever been involved with. Not much is known about the game, except for this E3 trailer, a few screenshots from publications, and really that's about it. Luckily though, during my research, I found a few test animations from the Sam and Max Fan UK page. Here's the first animation of Max shredding his ass on a paper shredder. Or how about this one of Sam and Max at a dance party? You can't forget this one of Max doing it with a lady and then walking out casually. The really out-of-context moments really make you scratch your head, and that really just begs the question, what was the game about? Sam and Max is iconic for their goofy stories, so what was this one about? Well, when I was researching Sam and Max Freelance Police, I couldn't find anything on the story, at all. The plot was just completely a mystery. During my research, I found a 10-page manifesto documenting the whole story behind it. It was an interview with Mike Stemmel in which he explains what the plot was about. From what Mike Stemmel remembers,
the plot was great. Basically, there was going to be 6 separate stories with a burbling backstory that would come to the fore in the final chapter. The big story involved the return of an ancient marauding sub-Arctic civilization, Giant Penguin, whose high priest, a librarian named Penelope Gwyn, get it? Who'd sacrifice the Chosen One to awaken them from their eternal slumber. In a twist, the Chosen One would be Sam rather than the expected Max. The opening episode featured a dance-off at a high school gym where all the kids started mysteriously acting like extras in West Side Story, as well as a mini game that could have served as a prototype for Rocket League. One episode had a Zamboni fight. One episode took place at a Burning Max festival and featured the Freelance Police's arch nemesis, Man and Sax. An episode brought the Rubber Pants Commandos into play, as they saw out former child star Gato Grosso, who was stealing all of the city's diapers. The 5th episode took place on the International Space Station funded by the Third World countries and featured a Tron-like villainous AI protected by a shield of nachos. And there was a recurring character who played a bassoon, because I love bassoons and hate animators.
Very interesting, I have to say, and very creative. I definitely think this could be a potential story for a Sam & Max 4, if Telltale would ever make a Season 4, but I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Hercules MacGuffin's been pulled off the shelves! Pulled! Gone, I tell ya! Gone!
Steady, little pal. We don't know that for certain.
Hit me again. I like it.
So if development was going smoothly, that also begs the question, why the hell was this project cancelled? Well, one word, bitch. Or maybe that's two. Yes, unfortunately, LucasArts is the obvious axe in Sam & Max's head, and they are the exact reason why the project was cancelled. Apparently, LucasArts didn't think that Sam & Max would sell well. I guess, specifically, the quote they put out on their website.
After careful evaluation of our current marketplace realities and underlying economic considerations, we've decided that this was not the appropriate time to launch a graphic adventure on PC.
As much as I would love to bitch about how much of a stupid-ass business decision this was, allow some of the thoughts of the developers and designers of Sam & Max Freelance Police tell you how they felt.
We recorded for 2 or 3 days on that and it got quite a bit of stuff done. There was one scene that I remember that I was really hoping would come out where Nick voiced Sam and I voiced Max. Like as if our brains got switched. That was a fun scene. Incidentally, they never really told me they cancelled the game. I didn't find out until like a year later.
It was one meeting. They called us all in a conference room and they told us they were pulling the plug in the project. It was presented not as a reflection of our effort, but more of a reality of where the game market was at. I think the managers who delivered the news were legitimately sincere about how sorry they were, but it still felt like a horrible gut punch at the time. It hurt to not have them support all the way through the end, regardless of what the market appeal was deemed to be.
I've worked on projects that have gotten cancelled before, so I think I took it pretty well. I felt for the crew, who had a lot more of their time invested than me. I knew that the public might automatically assume the game had been in trouble, so I issued an official comment to let fans know that the game itself was in good shape. That the decision was strictly a marketing choice. Steve Purcell.
They weren't necessarily frustrated with Sam & Max's cancellation, but more so disappointed, and I don't blame them. It looked like they put their heart and soul into this project. The animations, the screenshots, the concept art, everything that I've seen from Sam & Max 2 looked beautiful and fantastic, and it makes me so sad to see this project just thrown in the trash just because LucasArts didn't have faith in it. That is bullshit. And I guess after reading this quote and seeing how the designers felt, it was no surprise to see that LucasArts would eventually become defunct. But from the ashes of this turbulent tale rose Telltale. Yeah, I know that was a shitty pun. Telltale emerged from the ashes of LucasArts. And even though Sam & Max Freelance Police was canned, we did get the amazing classics as Sam & Max Save the World, Beyond Space and Time, and The Devil's Playhouse, which I feel like you all should play. They're fantastic and hilarious gaming experiences that really make you scratch your head and love the point-and-click genre. I wasn't a huge fan of the point-and-click genre until I played Sam & Max Hit the Road and the Telltale game. So please pay respects of this what could have been an amazing classic by playing these amazing games, because Sam & Max deserve all the attention that they can get. And you're probably wondering, why the hell am I even bothering talking about all this, huh? I mean, yeah, it sucks that the game got canned, but why am I wasting my time talking about it? Well, believe it or not, I knew about this game, but I had no idea that the story behind it was so deep and fascinating. I barely scratched the surface on what really did happen behind the scenes at LucasArts and the development of the game, and how everyone felt during its development. Like, I could have gone into all of that, but I want to save your sad, pathetic lives precious time, so it's best I cut things short. If you do want to learn more about this, though, I'll leave a link in the description for the Sam & Max Freelance Police manifesto that was made to document everything there is to know about the sequel. It's where I got most of my information for this video, so if you want to learn more about this, take a gander in the description below. I really do hope a playable build of Sam & Max Freelance Police gets released online, but seeing as how Sam & Max are just completely irrelevant characters nowadays and no one really talks about them, I doubt anything like that will happen, but who knows, crazier things have happened. With that said though, Sam & Max Freelance Police, at least a playable build or at least gameplay footage of what could have been, will remain a mystery. Special thanks to my buddies Odd Sweater, Shanicus, Gablab, and Andriola Mueller for sharing their beautiful voices in my video. They're all fantastic creators, and I will drop all of their social medias down in the description below. Specifically the first three, as they all have YouTube channels and they make great content. As far as Andriola goes, he makes fantastic artwork on Twitter, and you'll probably be seeing him in a future video, so I figured I'd tag him anyway. With that said guys, I'm Mr.Bones, and you guys have a good night. Take care.
Okay, that was weird.
Yet strangely nostalgic.